Hi, folks. Steve Urban here. Today's episode of the Riderflex podcast is sponsored by Marketing 360. My good friend JB Kellogg and his team do such a fantastic job for us and so many other companies. Marketing 360 is the number one platform for small business, and it's everything you need to grow your business. If you need marketing support, I really encourage you to contact them at marketing360.com/Riderflex, and we'll add that link to the description of this episode for easy reference. On today's episode of the Riderflex podcast, we have guest Matt Hyder. He's the founder and CEO of Recoup Fitness. They're in the health, wellness, and fitness category, and they're the makers of the Cryosphere. Great conversation with Matt, really inspirational on how he got the business started. Lots of examples here on hustle and not giving up. I think you'll enjoy the conversation. You still got hair, man.
I know it's so long right now. I haven't been able to get a haircut. I haven't had time.
Right? Or are they open? Can you get one?
Yeah, you can now. I just will walk past them like, I don't have 5 minutes. I need to go back to work.
Well, that's because you're a busy entrepreneur. By the way, Matt Hyder on the Riderflex podcast. Matt, how's it going? Are you in Denver today?
I am. Yep. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm hanging in there. I'm in northern Colorado, up near Loveland, so we're not too far away. So really cool story, man. I was doing my homework on you. Love it. I love the fact that you're super open about your personal life a little bit too, and the struggles you went through. You know, you barely getting out of high school and things like that. So I really, I love that about you, that you're open. Let's talk about yourself personally before we get into Recoup and the business. Just tell the listeners about yourself. Give us some family, early history stuff.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I barely graduated high school with a 1.9 GPA. And yes, you can actually graduate with that. I know. I couldn't believe I graduated either. Same with my family. But barely graduated. Just high school wasn't my thing, and I decided to make friends and have fun more than focus on education. Then realized as soon as high school was over, I needed to get my act together. So I started out at community college in Denver, where I left there with a 3.8 GPA.
Really?
So huge gap. Yeah, huge gap in difference, and it was fun. I enjoyed it more.
Now, was that one of those deals on the community college where they're like, okay, take this course, and if you do good, then we'll let you enroll full time? Like, what was the entry point since your GPA was super low for high school? Do you remember?
Yeah, they actually didn't do any of that. It was more for me to like test out what I wanted to do with my future. And so I took a bunch of different classes like law, which I really enjoyed because I wanted to be a corporate lawyer. But
really?
Yeah, shockingly. Then learned about it, was like, nah, not really for me.
By the way, the high school piece, was it party? Like, were you one of those kids like, okay, by 14, 15, you're already partying pretty heavy, you're getting in lots of trouble? Like, give me some more details there, man. More details.
Yeah. So when I was 14, the best story I have was I got my hands on a fake ID, and I was like, what can I do? Because I didn't smoke tobacco or like anything like that. I was like, what can I do besides like what you do at 18? It's like, get a tattoo.
Oh.
And so I got a tattoo, my first tattoo at 14.
Well, what's the age for that? Is 18 the rule? I don't even know.
It's right here and here.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 18. And so my parents weren't very happy when I came back.
Did you look 18? I mean, what'd the guy say? What'd the tattoo guy say?
It was, of course, a very sketchy tattoo parlor. They didn't even look at the picture. Like the guy and I looked similar, but he looked way, way older. And I don't know how I got away with it, but it worked.
Yeah. Was your dad pretty tough growing up? Who was the tough one? Your mom or dad?
My dad was, but with tough love come, like, he instilled a lot of my work ethic and habits I have today. And realizing I was a rebel, because he was too, was a different type then, and would make me, I learned he, instead of doing like, oh, you're grounded for this amount of time, if I was hungover or something, it was yard work in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was good lessons, and I appreciate all the things that he did. Hated him during them, but as I
Right.
got older, I realized how great it was, and like that tough love and keeping me in check as much as he could.
Did you ever any arrests, any jail time, anything huge like that?
No, none of that. I got a lot of underage drinking tickets though.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Gotcha.
yeah, from like four. I got one when I was 15, and one when I was 16, and then I got one in college as well.
Wow. What are those? $1,000 a pop? I don't even know what the cost is on that. What's the
It's
ticket on that?
$100 plus like a drinking class or community service.
Oh, is
So
that
it's actually
all?
not
Oh,
that bad. Yeah.
oh, I thought it was a big deal. I didn't even know.
Yeah. They don't even deter, it doesn't even deter you from underage drinking. It's like, okay, I'll pay this and do my community service. It's not that bad.
But when you were in school, I mean, your EQ, your emotional intelligence, your people skills, I mean, always pretty high with friends and things like that. Were you a natural leader?
Yeah, I would say so. I would always take charge whenever we had class projects. If I didn't believe in something that the teacher said, I would argue against it. And that is why my GPA was so low for sure. I would get into very heated debates, and teachers would get mad when I would win the arguments.
Are there teachers right now that didn't like you that are using the Cryosphere ball and they're like, "Yeah, I never liked that guy," and they're using it?
I don't know about that, but I did have my high school counselor tell me I would amount to nothing. And
Oh,
I
ooh.
remember, and I got published in like there's a local company called Innovation and Tech. They distribute nationwide, but based in Colorado. They did a piece on me, and I remember I signed it and gave it to him. Was like, not too bad for a kid that's not going to amount to anything, huh?
Love it. Love it. Any response? Probably not.
Oh, I never said that. Oh, I believe that you would do something. You were just
Oh,
misguided. It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, I get it.
interesting. Wow. Wow. Okay. So had a lot of fun in high school, made it through, went to community college, got your shit together, basically, came out with some pretty solid grades, and then thought you might want to be an attorney, but still playing around with stuff. And then what? Got into CU to finish up?
Yeah, so went to CU Boulder and quickly learned I didn't want to be a lawyer. I was more on the political side of things to make change. So I worked in politics for a little bit and
Oh,
realized what I wanted to do, I needed to make a lot of money first and really learn the world and the business and take a step back before I could truly make an influence and an impact in the world in politics.
really? So that was the goal. You wanted to, okay, I didn't know that about you. So how do I make a lot of money so I can make an impact politically was the early goal. Is that still the goal, by the way?
Um, It is a little bit when I, especially now, as you see how messed up how
Yeah,
messed up everything is.
right.
And so probably when I'm like 60, it'll be call it my retirement job. But my goal is to make enough, like I want to make enough money in my life where I don't have to go to big money to run my campaigns. I can do all of that and not be influenced by all these other means because I have the means to survive. I don't have to do any of that, and
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot to get there because
Mm-hmm.
political campaigns now, back when I was in college, it was like $1 million to become a House of Representative, but now it's like 2 to 3 million to run those campaigns and do
Mm-hmm.
all of that. But I only want to do House of Representatives. I don't want to be the Senate. I don't want to do anything else
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
Because the House of Representatives, you go back to the people more. Like, you need to be in front of your constituent basis so much more because you're up for reelection every 2 years. And so that's why I would only do that side, not the Senate of 6 years,
I
the
see.
president, none of that stuff.
But that's why you majored in political science because I saw that on your background. So that was your interest there.
Yep, it was. I wish I
Okay.
got the degree, but I didn't.
Oh, okay. So you never actually got the degree.
Correct.
Well,
I
there's a few other famous rich people that are in the same boat, I think.
yeah, I dropped out my last semester of my senior year of college. Actually, the 49ers wrote me a check for Recoup, and I decided I'm going to risk it. I
I'm
can
good
always
to
go back
go.
to school.
I'm good to
Yeah.
go. By the way, does any of the political stuff or the entrepreneurial stuff tie to your parents or anything that they did for a living? I'm just curious.
No, not at all. The entrepreneurship, or on my parents' side, On the entrepreneurship side, it does. Back in 2017, when Brandon Marshall was taking a knee for the as a form of silent protest of the injustice that we're seeing today, and back then, he lost all these sponsorships, and we were actually the first company to support him and get as a business, and we got some backlash from it. But
Really?
now you see what's going on in the world, and I stuck by my guns then and still do now, and
Good for you.
supporting that cause for sure.
Good for you. Walk us into this entrepreneurial thing. So you're in college, you're kind of doing your thing. Were you saying to yourself, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to start a business? Or walk us through how that happened and how Recoup eventually was developed. Because I think you tried to start a couple of other things before. So walk us through some of that.
Yeah, so it started when I was interning for the former Lieutenant Governor of Colorado, Barbara O'Brien, on her
Okay.
DPS school campaign, and just saw a lot of inefficiencies. I was like, how can I make this better? And that was my first real taste at like 19. Tried to do some stuff there, failed miserably, but I knew I was on the right path, and so tried 4 or 5 other businesses and just learned along the way of I'm not in tech. I don't like tech. I like to create things and build things. And
Okay.
so I got pivoted towards the consumer product goods side. And the best lesson I ever learned was create for yourself, not others,
Mm,
because you can fully understand the problem and create the correct solution, and you care more because it's your problem. And
okay.
honestly, if you fail at it, your life is better because you solved your own problem. Luckily for us, we had people that had the same problem.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. And what was it? Tell me what happened. Did you get injured?
I was a former athlete in the loose sense of the term. Just and tried all like just caught was playing basketball one day and caught a knee. Tried all the recovery methods of like foam rolling and ice cups, and a lacrosse ball. None of them gave me the relief I was looking for. So I was
Okay.
like, how can I make all 3 of these products? What are the biggest problems with all 3 of them? And
Mm.
then that's how I was able to create the first product with the Cryosphere.
By yourself? Walk us through. How were you just like? Was it you? You're drawing this up, or talk to me. How did you do that?
Um, I just kind of wung it. I think that's a big thing in entrepreneurship that you see. Everyone's like, how do you start? How do you start? There's no right answer. Just try.
Right.
That's
Mm.
the way you start. But I got a stainless steel ball with from China, drilled a hole in it, filled it with gel, and then got a sprinkler cap from Home Depot and just tried out the methodology. It was like, okay, this works. How do I make it way better? And that's how it started. It was an $8 prototype.
Were you always creative like that? Was that your nature?
Yeah, I always solved my own problems
Okay.
as a
Okay.
kid, and that
Okay.
definitely derives from my dad. Like he would always create stuff. Always grew up watching him and try to invent things, but I realized I'd solved my own problems. And when I got in trouble and got grounded, I didn't want to watch TV or play video games, so I would do random like build things to occupy my time.
Sorry. So you get this ball. You get this ball. You're making this now. At the same time, are you going online and trying to find like competitors or similar product? Are you doing your homework on all that at the same time?
Yeah, I am. Once I started creating it and then got it tested out by some trainers just to see if they like the concept, I was starting to sell them, hand make them, but then I was doing research at the time because the thing is like people get so bogged down and look for an excuse not to do stuff. So
Right.
I didn't want to put that barrier in between me and what I was doing at the time. So I wanted to get traction and like see if it actually worked, and then dove into the other
Which,
side.
which I think, which is exactly what you should do. Great advice for the listeners. Now, so let me make sure I understand. You built some prototypes on your own, very low cost, so low cost to get these things built, and then you called trainers you knew. Did you like knock on doors? Did you have these relationships? Did you have these relationships, or how did
uh,
you? Yeah, talk to me.
None of that. I built it without any relationships. I literally just emailed trainers in Colorado. Was like, hey, I have an idea. I have a terrible prototype, but do you have like 5 minutes of your time? Tell me if it's gonna work or not. And like, luckily, the first guy his name was Robin Balkenbruh. He was at Purdue as assistant athletic director, pretty big resume, and then he ended up going to Chauncey Billups D1. And he believed it. He was like, I like the concept. He's like, I hate the prototype. I love the concept. And so that's what I kept doing was calling and emailing, and people just wouldn't respond. So I would show up and say, hey, do you have 5 minutes? I've emailed you a bunch of times.
Okay, now
And
let me take a pause right there, because this is great for the entrepreneurs that want to get started. I love this about it. So hustle, right? Here's the first hustle sign, right? So, but by the way, how'd you get these lists? Were you just like on Google, like looking up trainer lists? How did you get the numbers in the emails?
yeah, just through Google searching like
How about
athletic
that?
trainers in Colorado.
Now, are you in the parking lot waiting for the trainer to like walk out of the gym and like, hey, John, how'd you do this?
No, I would actually just show up and knock on the door, and just say, hey, I've emailed you a couple of times. Like, do you have 5 minutes? And they'd say, I have one client, like, come back later. I was like, oh, I'll just wait. And I would sit there and wait until they had to meet with me.
Love it, bro. And then you did your pitch and handed them a sample and said, hey, use it. I just want to know, no cost to you whatsoever. I just want your opinion on it.
Yeah. So actually the first prototype, I only had one because I was poor. I was a broke college kid living back at home, student debt, all of that fun stuff. And so I was like, hey, give me your opinion about it. And then once I did that and I got enough proof that they liked it, I went and started figuring out, how can I hand make them? How can I produce things in low quantities and give them to them? So then once I did that, I went back and like gave them iteration after iteration for feedback, and was able to keep growing from there and make
Now,
the product better.
did you have your LLC? I mean, was there an official company set up at this point or not? Not yet.
Not yet. It was started in January, and we didn't get our LLC until like June.
When you were handing out these samples, were you worried they were going to like copy it or like take your idea? Were you making them sign NDAs, anything like that?
No, because you'll get laughed out of the room, and like, hey, sign this NDA for me to pitch you a product. Like, no, it was so bad and ugly. Like, there's no way that they're gonna take this. And I was like, I'm not looking for that. I'm just looking for proof of concept.
Proof of
And
concept.
yeah, and that's what I think a lot of people need to do is don't go to your friends and family because you always have a good idea. Go to random people. They'll tell you if your idea sucks or not.
I think that's great advice. Let's take a pause right there for the listeners. Wonderful advice for aspiring entrepreneurs. Several things you're hearing here from Matt. Number one, I didn't even have my LLC set up. I had an idea. I'm looking to see if other people like it, and I need to get some feedback on it. I'm trying to do proof of concept. So I'm not going to worry about setting all this crap up. I just want to even see if people like this first. Love that. You also didn't worry about, oh, I got to protect it and the, NDAs and all this other stuff. You're like, I'm not doing any of that. I want to see if anybody uses this and anybody likes it. And if they do, then I'll worry about the other stuff. I think that's great. I think more entrepreneurs should do that. I think a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs and co-founders, they spend way too much time trying to set a bunch of crap up and spending money on lawyers for paperwork and, trying to draw up a 5-year financial model when they haven't even handed their product to anybody to see if they like it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy. You see people raising millions of dollars or like going out and they don't even have a product. Like, it's just a slideshow. Like, nah, go back and like create a product, see if it's good, see if people actually like it.
I think that's awesome advice. Okay. So, by the way, how are you living and paying the bills at that point? A little support from the parents. Is that how you're surviving and eating? Okay.
Yeah. So moved back home with my parents. Food and all that was paid for. And then I was actually working a job. I was working as a bar back at night. I'd run the business during the day and then work at night.
See, now that's hustle, everybody. Hustle. He's working at the bar at night, and during the day, he's like hunting down trainers and like knocking on their door and saying, hey, try my product. I love that, man. That is a great story. By the way, are you handing the sample across the bar to the patrons and saying, hey, try this. Tell me what you think?
No, I was actually just trying to be as super nice as I could so I could get more money from them and increase tips so I could get out of there sooner.
Oh, I love it. Okay, man. Cool. I really appreciate you sharing some of that early stuff. Tell me, when is there like a turning point, either like when you started the business or you got your first major order? Walk us into some of the, the first huge turning points for the business.
The biggest turning point for the business in my entire life was pitching the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, how'd you even get that meeting, by the way?
Hustle again. So I emailed an investor. His name was Courtney Rem. He's big now, sold a company for hundreds of millions of dollars. Awesome guy.
Okay.
Still a good friend and mentor. But yeah, I just emailed him on LinkedIn, was like, hey, I had this idea, this concept. I don't really know how to raise money yet. Like, can I pitch you? He was in LA. I had a friend out there. And so kept talking to him, kept bugging him. Kind of bullshit. I definitely bullshitted him. I was like, oh, I'm out in LA all the
I
time,
love it,
blah,
man.
blah, blah. I
I
was like, yeah, just
love
let me
it.
know whenever you're free. And he emailed me on a Wednesday, was like, hey, if you're in town, I may have like 30 minutes for you on Friday. And I was like, yep, I'll be in town. Took that as a yes. Flew to LA that Thursday night, and then got a text. And I was still, maybe, I didn't know if I was going to have the meeting yet or not. And then had him, and then he texted me like right around 9 a.m. On Friday, was like, hey, be here at 3, you have 30 minutes. Pitched him. He bought it on the spot, gave me $100, came back to Colorado, made the product, sent him $120 back and said, here's a return on your investment already. And
Ooh, I love that move, bro. Ooh, that's nice. I like that little touch right there. That little stuff like that makes a huge difference. I bet that really impressed him. By the way, when you say pitch, did you have like a PowerPoint deck and all this other stuff, or you just
nope,
walked in there and said, "Hey, man, here I am."
Yep, I was like, here I am. I don't know a lot. I know you play in this space. Can I get advice? Like what? And coolest guy ever. And like, I appreciate him. Like one day I'm going to get him to invest in something I'm going to create. Not yet, but one day. That's my
Okay.
goal.
I
But
love it. All right, great meeting.
yeah,
I really appreciate you sharing that story. So go ahead, and then that somehow that opens the door to the Niners somehow.
yeah. So so he's going up to the 49ers to meet with Jed York, brings the product to him, and he told me that. And so I decided I'm going to call Jed York every single day for 3 weeks. And finally his assistant picked up, and she was like, you keep calling, what is this about? And then told her. So then the next day I sent her flowers. Like I did some research about her
Oh,
and
yeah,
knew
I
that
love
she
it.
loved calla lilies and loved the color purple. So I sent her sent her calla lilies with purple roses. Like, thank you so much for just taking the time to talk with me. And
So
then about 3 days later, she was like, hey, you're on Jed York's schedule. And so it
oh
worked.
my God, that is such a great story. By the way, to all those salespeople out there that don't know the true meaning of hustle and getting creative to earn a meeting, there you go. Right there. Perfect example. I can't imagine what it must be like to be a salesperson for your company now. I can almost see you in a meeting when one of your salespeople, they come up and like, oh, I can't get any meetings today. And you're looking at them like, okay, let me teach you some things.
Yeah, lack of hustle doesn't survive in the business for sure. Like
Oh my
it's
God. What a
what
great
built it.
story. When she called you and said you're on the schedule, did you go out that night? Did you call your friends and you're like, hey, we have to go to happy hour like right now? Was that a big celebration?
No, it was like, all right, what do I got to prep? I have a phone call
Ah,
in a week. So I prepped everything, got on the phone with Jed, and he was like, I like the concept. And so awesome guy. I know people talk about him in the media and all this stuff, but personally dealing with him, one of the coolest, nicest guys out
really?
there. Really, like
Awesome.
media portrays people so differently than who they are when you get to know them. But he gave me a shot when he shouldn't have. I was a nobody,
Was that
and
meeting in
he
person or on
goes,
the phone? Was that in person or on the phone? That,
it was on the phone.
okay.
And then he said, he's like, preseason's about to start. And he was like, hey, we're playing the Broncos during preseason. We're going to be in town. How about you come pitch our trainers? And I go to they're staying at the Westin in downtown. Cops are everywhere. And I'm like sitting down there. And then I asked the cops, like, hey, I have a meeting up here. And they're like, no, you don't. And then the 49ers, he was the VP of operations, came down and grabbed me, brought me back up. And I'm sitting in the room, and you have all these pro athletes in the back and 12 trainers and just me.
Oh,
pitching these guys,
oh,
and they loved it.
they're all there for you. They're all like, okay, bro, give us your pitch.
I wish the pro athletes were, but they were actually just getting treated on. But the
Oh,
trainer stopped treating them to like listen to what I pitched. So I don't know what Jed said, but I appreciate everything of that because I had all 12 trainers' attention and they loved it enough that they actually gave me an order on the spot.
oh
It was
my!
one of the coolest experiences ever.
I'm trying to visualize it right now. I wish you could have. Oh God, I wish that was recorded. Right? Don't you wish you could have video recorded that? Now I'm imagining. So it's a room. They're working on people in the background. You come in. They're told, "Hey, you need to listen to this kid," and they're probably like, "Okay, whatever." And are they kind of like half listening at first, and then when you start talking, you're drawing them in, and then you're drawing them in closer?
No, it was really, really cool to see the level of respect and attention that they gave me for no reason. Like I was pitching them and trying to sell them, but like the trainers had questions, they asked how to use it. They were so attentive to it. It was really, really amazing to see that. And like I was nervous as hell.
Oh,
Like
I
I was
bet.
sweating. And I was in a suit, like probably sweating through the suit at the time, but they made me feel so comfortable and like they just
So good.
generally cared. And I was
So
like,
good.
I was like, it made the pitch so much easier because it wasn't saying what's wrong with the product. And they were like throwing out suggestions on how to make it better. And it was awesome.
Was there like, did you have handout material? Did you have a PowerPoint, or it's just you standing there with the product and demoing?
It was me with 4 3D printed products at the time and gave them to them and they tried them, they used them. And they're like, well, what about this? What about this? Like the designs, all of this type of stuff. And they gave great feedback, but they loved it at the end of the day. And it was so cool. And
Amen.
I'll never forget that experience. As
And
long as I live.
they gave you an order, but meanwhile, you don't even know how you're going to produce them. How big was the order?
12 units.
12 units. Okay. Was there anybody personally waiting for you in the parking lot, like a friend, your parents? Was there anybody like downstairs, like, okay, man, go for it. I'll meet you down here?
No, I actually kept the meeting under wraps. I didn't want anyone to know,
Really?
and I wanted to handle it. I was just like, I don't want to counter it before it happens. And I remember walking out of the building and calling my parents, and I had to sit down. Like I was physically in tears of like, holy shit. People work their entire life to get
Wow.
pro teams to buy the product, and yeah, you can give them to them, but rarely do they purchase it. Like these
Wow.
people work their entire life to do it, and I just did it as my first client. And like even talking about it's giving me goosebumps again. But like it brought me to tears, and I sat down and was like, holy shit,
Wow.
I have something big here, and dropped out of college as soon as that check came in.
How about that? Congratulations, man. What a special moment. Wow. Okay, cool. And that was your first, was that your first check?
Yeah, I would say my first real customer. Like everyone else was like lower level, like direct to consumer of like, hey, if you purchase this now for proof of concept, I'll give you a better one in the future. But
Man, that is so great.
never like that. And
That's so
like I
great.
said, that's why I dropped out of college.
I love it, man. What a fantastic story. Let's do this then. Give the listeners an overview of Recoup as it is today. Just give us a company overview and the products you're selling and kind of as it is today, if you don't mind, for anybody that may not know.
Yeah. Today's gonna be a little different. So we develop innovative recovery products. Our first product is the Cryosphere. It's a stainless steel ball filled with cooling gel. It has a free rolling handle. Leave it in the freezer. It'll stay cold up to 6 hours. And then we just released our second product late last year, the Cryo Sleeve, and we're partnered with BOA Technologies, the dial system. You'll see it on golf shoes, other braces. Same thing, just leave it in the freezer. It'll stay cold up to an hour. Fits on your arm or your leg, and then you just press down and twist on the BOA system. And it's the coolest product we have out there, and we're doing a lot more innovation around that here shortly. As the business stands today, I am a one-man show
It's
right
just you,
now.
no employees.
Yeah, we had some stuff went on internally that not legally allowed to discuss, but
Okay.
there was a huge turnover and kind of hitting the reset button. But we're already working with some amazing people that want to get behind the business and what we want to do. And I feel very, very lucky to be working with these experts right now.
That's great. So you were maybe some contractors or consultants, or you're just kind of partnering with some people, but no new W-2 employees yet.
Nope, no new
Yep.
W-2 employees. Went from a staff of 6 down to 1.
Okay. And you just outsource your marketing and your accounting is kind of outsourced to or whatever?
Yeah, so actually we bring that in-house. Luckily, one of my early investors, her name is Carolina Gash. She's big time in the oil and gas space. At the age of 28, was raising $300 million funds for mergers and acquisitions. Did stuff for OPEC. She's badass, and
Awesome.
she's my right hand with everything right now, and diving in deep. And very, very lucky to have her on board. And then then a couple other consultants here and there. New one is Chris Mackler. He actually marketed MyFitnessPal for Under Armour and made it the #1 downloaded fitness app.
Oh, you're surrounding yourself with some great talent. So how old is the business now?
So technically we are 5 years old. But in reality, since we started selling, we'll say 2016, we're right around 4 years.
Okay. And can you speak to revenue? I know it's a private company. Can you,
Yeah.
do you want to share? Go ahead.
So yeah, in 2016, we did about $85,000. 2017, we did 451,000.
Nice.
2018 was 827,000.
Awesome.
And then last year was our biggest year of growth, where we did over 4 million in revenue.
Wow. Very nice. Great. Awesome growth, my man. And so you're making money. You're profitable.
Not profitable, but we're making money and growing. So.
And how are you surviving then if you're not earning? Well, because you're paying yourself a small salary, probably of maybe something small.
Yeah. I'm paying myself pretty all right for that. But of course, with everything going on, my salary has been dropped by over 35%. So we can get top level people in here. The thing is with profitability is it's as you grow that quick, profitability kind of goes by the wayside, especially in the CPG space as well. Beyond profitability is just your cash flow of things. Because you have to order things ahead of time. So it messes with your cash flow. So we have to get creative on what to do. And it's
how much cash have you raised over time? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, we've raised $2.3 million to date. So it's been pieced together. Last year was the first year we've really had a big chunk at once. Everything else was like $25,000 to survive. It was always survival until last year.
Yep. Talk to us about that big raise. Can you speak to the investor, or at least share the story of when you're at dinner asking them for the check?
I wish it was dinner. Everyone makes, you've seen the headlines all the time. Oh, they raised this amount of money. Reality is it doesn't work like that. It is a game of throwing out as many lines as you can and seeing what bites, and then what bites, you have to put all your time and energy into that, flying across the country, going to meetings, wining and dining. Raising money is not fun. And like people that see this glamour of, oh, they raised $10 million at this evaluation. Like, that may be the case, but that's not the reality of 99% of the businesses. It's okay, what lead do you have? How do you go after that lead, and how do you get them to write a check?
How many pitches did you have to do before somebody actually gave you that big check? Do you remember?
I pitched probably 1,500 people, and I pitch a lot. 1,500 people, and I think our cap table is close to like 25 people in total. So I've received roughly 1,725 no's.
Wow. And by the way,
1,425 no's.
Two good notes for aspiring entrepreneurs. Number one, you have to pitch a lot before you actually get a yes. And then when people do invest, managing the cap table, right? And 25 investors or 25 people that have given you money, that also turns into somewhat of a part-time job, whether it's communication or whatever, right? Because you got to kind of keep them informed, and those are relationships you have to manage. That's another huge piece of the job, right?
Yeah. And relationship management is a lot of it. In the start, when you raise money, is okay. for me, well, just for me personally, is when I've turned down money before because I didn't like what they said, or it just wasn't the right fit. But
Yeah.
so the investors I'm close with are the biggest stakeholders, but I value them. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a thing that entrepreneurs they get this big head as you get money, you get success, you get all these flashy things, and then you drink the Kool-Aid. I've drank the Kool-Aid before early on. It kicked me in the teeth and I had to learn from it. But I go to my investors like, hey, I don't know how to solve this problem. Here's what I'm thinking. What is your advice? And I do
Good.
that with the board. I always go back to them for advice and help. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of like that the hustle changes as you grow in success. And to me, it's learning as much as I can. Like luckily, AJ Vaynerchuk, that helped build VaynerMedia,
Ah.
is one of our investors.
Oh,
And I
really?
have to be coolest guy ever. Like he's a good friend, beyond just an investor. Was like, hey, going through a lot of stuff. I need to be a COO right now. I need a crash course. Gave me 30 minutes and was like, prioritize. Here's what to do. All of that. And that's why you get these people involved is
Mm-hmm.
surround yourself with brains that are way, way smarter than you and shut up and listen. That's the key. Shut up and listen and digest and go back and get true help from them.
Great advice. So many founders, especially if they created the product themselves, they end up thinking they know everything. They try to surround themselves with good people, but they just won't listen because well, I created this, so I'm the smartest person in the room, so I know what to do, right? I see that all the time. Great advice for the listeners. Really good stuff. Okay, so at this point, I mean, by the way, $4 million, I think you said last year. I mean,
Yep.
that's a great business. Congratulations to get it to that point,
Thank you.
right? I mean, really. And you're paying yourself, you're feeding yourself, you're paying your own bills. Like you said, maybe not hugely profitable, but when you're scaling up the business, to your point, profitability is however you adjust the numbers based on what you're investing in, whether it's payroll or marketing or whatever. What you got any big moves coming up with product or launches or anything you want to share that's coming up down the road?
Yeah, it's going to be extremely boring. We're going to figure out how to become profitable. This with everything that's going on in the world right now, you can't be scaling and growing like you used to. And now is the time to really take a step back, reset, and grow the business the correct way. So that's what we're doing. It's not glamorous. To me, it's really fun because I get to see all the problems and solve for them. But that's what you got to do as times change and like go with it. We were supposed to release a couple new products this year. That's not happening with everything going on, and it's time to reset and rebuild. And we're still gonna have year-over-year growth, but I have to get what takes companies and people a year to do. I have less than a month to get it done. So I'm working well over 100 hours a week, sleeping at the office, but it's fun. Like this is what I love about it.
By the way, married, kids, family, anything for you right now?
No, I met an amazing woman late last year in September. Her name is Leah. She's an entrepreneur as well.
Ooh.
And she gets it. She's been through all the ups and downs recently. I'm very, very lucky to have found her and have her in my life.
Is she helping you with the business?
She's not, but she's helping me with support and
Yeah.
being there. And she did actually early on. What's kind of crazy is I lost my mom last year.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and it was tough, but I met her on a Tuesday actually with Paul Foley that was previously on your cast at his party on Tuesday.
Cool.
We met that night, and then less than a week later my mom passed away.
Oh man.
And we had a date planned for a wedding, and I was like, I just needed to get out and like be around happiness and not be sunk in this hole. And she was just there for me, and she's been there for me every step of the way. And it was the toughest experience I've ever had, but I wouldn't have done it, wouldn't be able to make it without her. And I'm very, very lucky to have found such an amazing woman that supports me and is generally there for me, but has her own life and goes and crushes it in the entrepreneurship space as well. We connect on a very weird level.
Thank you for sharing that. Really important for aspiring entrepreneurs to understand if you're going to start a business, which is, by the way, 100 times harder than just being an employee for somebody, if you're going to start something and be a startup founder, you better have a spouse or a girlfriend, boyfriend relationship. You better have some sort of relationship that is super supportive and understanding, or else it's just not going to go well, because you're going to work all the time as an entrepreneur. And if they don't understand it, if they don't get it, if they don't support it, your life's just going to be miserable, because it's hard enough to be a startup founder already. If you're getting pressure at home because you're not spending enough time there or whatever, it's going to make it worse. It's
Yeah.
absolutely critical.
Yeah. And even before I dated her, I dated someone that was opposite of that, and was, you're not hearing up all of this stuff, and God, it was miserable and put me in a bad mood. But yeah, like going from that to what I have now, it's amazing. And that stability is key, because this job is such a mental battle of ups and downs, like hour to hour. You need to have that stability, or figure out what it is, or that set of motivation to keep going when times get tough.
Couple of summary pieces of advice for entrepreneurs that have an idea but haven't started yet. If you had to, and I know we could do like a 2-hour podcast on that question alone, but if you had to just throw out a couple of, strong pieces of advice for somebody listening that, maybe they have a product of some kind, but they haven't really done anything yet, what would you tell them?
Go out and do it. Stop making excuses and start. Entrepreneurship, I can't remember who said it, but it's like a pretty famous quote. Entrepreneurship is jumping off a cliff and figuring out how to build the plane on the way down. Just go for it. Like, what do you have to lose? A no, rejection? Welcome to life. That's that's how life is. You're gonna get kicked in the teeth, get back up and keep going. Just start. Like, especially now. We're living in a crazy time with all the injustice that's going on. We go from coronavirus to this. Like, why not start and innovate?
Why
Like,
not? Yeah.
we need more positivity and happiness in the world. And I'm a firm believer in, when you find out what you love to do, you don't work at all. And I tell that to my friends all the time. Like, if you're not happy, quit. Go find what you love to do. Like, life changes when you do what you love. It truly, truly does. And you'll find out early on with entrepreneurship if you love it or you don't.
Why don't they quit? I talk to people like that, and I'm like, yeah, just quit your job and do it. Like, just go for it. But they won't. They're just scared. I don't know if it's the material things that they're wrapped up into, or they're fully leveraged on whatever, car payments and homes and whatever, and they're just scared. So they just won't. They won't jump off the cliff, like you said. Most of them won't.
Yeah. And I think you should. Yeah, it's scary, but you may lose it. But what happens if you're right? Instead, I think that's the way it's changing that mindset. People always think, what happens if I fail? What happens if I fail? What happens if I'm right and I succeed? What does your life turn into?
Mm-hmm.
With me, I jumped, and my life turned into something I dreamed about, but it's even better than I ever dreamed.
Yeah.
I'm hanging out with pro athletes, changing the world, like doing all these amazing things that if I looked at it, what if I failed? I would have never been here now.
The first time I see you on TV hanging out with a super famous athlete, I'm going to text your cell phone and be like, hey bro, I know you. How about just one or two lines for first time CEOs? And I think, because I really think what happens is people have an idea, they get started, they built a product with a co-founder, maybe they get some money, and then all of a sudden they have 10 employees, and they're like, oh shit, okay, I'm a manager now and a CEO for the first time, and I have no experience or training at that whatsoever. Any advice for those guys?
I would say first and foremost, like, the CEO title's thrown around a lot, and it's but the thing is, like, to become a real CEO, I feel like it's a badge of honor. Of you go from, in my opinion, inventor, entrepreneur to founder to a CEO. And I think the thing is, don't work for that title. Don't just throw it up there and say I'm a CEO. Good. Work for it, because it feels better when you earn that title and what you have to go through. And as you become a CEO, read and surround yourself with people that know what they are doing, because I failed in that 100%. I surrounded myself with people, but I didn't know how to be a CEO at the time. And I'm still learning how to do it. But I have all these people around me that are teaching me how to become a better leader, teaching me how to run the business, teaching me how to organize. Like, go surround yourself with that. Like, you can read all the books, you can do all of that. Go get those people that will truly teach you and help you and guide you to becoming a CEO. Like, I've made a lot of mistakes, but I have these people that are helping me get over them and getting me to that next step and level. And the thing too is, when you get to that position, realize you are not better than anyone, and you need to still be looking at customer service to figure out problems. Like, don't lose the things that got you to that point. Keep those going. You may not do them as much and it'll change, but do it from time to time to like realize why you're here, what this is truly about, and not this title and fame, all of that stuff. So I know it's a very long-winded answer, but
no, love it. Great advice. Great advice. What I love about you, Matt, is you're a hustling, creative guy that, won't take no for an answer and will just get after it. And I'm sure you are a type A opinionated person, but you've learned how to listen even better than you did before. And you're humble enough to say, yeah, I made plenty of mistakes. I'm learning from those and I'm growing, and I'm trying to surround myself with people that can educate me. I love that about you. Last question here, as we're almost out of time. If you could define your core purpose in life and put it into a sentence, why you're on this planet, so to speak, what would that sound like?
I want to change the world. And it's a very big thing. A lot of people say it. And so I started out with that. I want to change the world. How do I do it? To me, it's creating the future. So that's through product, innovation, all of that. So when we die off, is the next generation can look back and say, oh, what did these people create, or what did they do to make the world better, making it a better place and changing it? Because we're all going to die, reality of the situation. And so how can we leave this place better than when we started with it? And I truly believe that, like, my next business is going to be funding the next set of innovators and like helping them through it. Like, that's how I plan on changing the world, is helping people create the future.
Love it. Matt, super happy for you, man. Congratulations on everything that you've built so far. Awesome product. Really respect your hustle.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
There's so many things that people can learn from you on this podcast. Appreciate you sharing the advice. And thanks for being on the Riderflex podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviews. Our show can be heard just about anywhere these days, but you can visit riderflex.com and click on the podcast page to hear all the previous episodes and learn more about the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Contact us at the email address info@riderflex.com or 888-964-5876. Thanks so much for listening, and if you enjoy our show, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes.